What is up, guys? Welcome back to episode 2. This week we are going to get started on the entrance plaza to our park. Now I wanted to give this whole park entrance area kind of a city feeling, so I went ahead and threw in a bunch of buildings that I grabbed from the in-game pieces. But first I had to throw down some concrete, make those paths and the ground texture look even. This is always fun when your ground is never perfectly smooth like you want it to be, and then have to go in and fill everything back in. Now obviously you see I dug a hole here, so I'm going to go ahead and throw some water in, give us a little pond in our entrance. Now this is a technique I have seen other YouTubers use to make the bottom of their water or pond or water feature or whatever look a little more cleaner, is to throw another piece of concrete or a colorable texture down to give the bottom of your pond the right look that you wanted. So I went ahead and made it a dark blue, make that water a little more blue and clear and even. So next we're going to go ahead and throw in some flower planters along the edge so people don't fall in our pond. Now I really like the way that these planters turned out. I like the colors that I used because it matches the main entrance building. I like the flowers that end up getting put in there because it looks fairly neat and even, something that you would expect to see at a regular amusement park. Now in hindsight, looking back and rewatching this, I should go in and lower those planters so they're not quite so tall. It makes the water look extremely deep or lower than you would expect. So I might go back in and fix that. Now with this front planter, I wanted it a little bit lower. I didn't want it to block the view of the entrance as you're walking up. I didn't want it to block the view of the flowers that I'm going to put in here around our little water feature here. So I'll sink it in the ground a little bit. So here I'm going to add in a little fountain, mess around with some items, see what I can come up with. So I didn't like any of those in-game fountain pieces for my pond or my fountain up front here, so I decided to scrap that little idea. So I moved on to some lighting, try to light up the fountain. Nothing was really working the way I wanted it to. So for the fountain, I just went ahead with these water effects. I think this gives the fountain the desired effect that I was looking for. Just takes a little finessing and tweaking. No, it's not perfect, but I'll take it for now. Now time for some of my favorite lighting. I really like these spotlights that are in the game. I wish you could adjust the brightness so that they could throw their beam a little farther, but I'll take what I can get. Threw a little blue light in the pond, give it a little more life and make it a little more active. Now I went ahead and copied a couple buildings from those in-game pieces, or from the Main Street pieces, sorry, and I added them to our entrance. I wanted this area to kind of look like a city plaza that was surrounded by buildings. So that's kind of the idea. So I'm going to end up wrapping this front plaza in buildings on all three sides. Now one thing I want to do is, even though I copied these buildings from the Main Street area, is I wanted to make it look like all the buildings on our front entrance are part of the same city plaza. So one way I did that was by changing all the colors so that the roof pieces looked the same and that the colors matched each other. They didn't have to be the same, but at least part of the same color group. It makes everything blend a little bit more. And I think that turned out pretty decent. So we'll stick with that for today. Now I went ahead and changed the back side of our entrance building because I wasn't a fan of the way that color looked when you looked back down the Main Street. I wanted it to blend in a little bit more, so I made it more of a neutral color. So let's go ahead and throw in some flowers in our planters out front. Now I'm really liking the way that these planters turned out, but one thing I do want to try to add down the line is a entrance sign for our park. That's going to take me some time to figure out. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and move on to our next project, and that is a wooden roller coaster. Now I wanted to make this kind of a classic style layout. And I don't want this park to get massive, so where I put this is going to be kind of the border and the edge of our park along that side. Now I thought it would be cool to have the entrance on one side of the pathway, while the majority of the coaster is on the other side of the pathway, creating a border for our park. So the way I had to do this, obviously, and I thought this, maybe not obvious, but I thought this was the best, was immediately out of the station we drop underground. And then we pop up on the other side of the pathway. Now this was a little difficult because there has to be enough room and clearance between the coaster and the sidewalk for the ride to go through, even though there is ground in between the path and the roller coaster. It still wouldn't let me, so I had to delete the path to get this in here. Now I didn't want the layout of this wooden coaster to be too crazy. I wanted it to be kind of an out and back style coaster. Now one thing I find funny is after I built this and I test rode it a couple times, not the first drop, but the second drop reminds me of the wooden coaster that is close to me at Lakeside Amusement Park in Denver called the Cyclone. On that ride, the first initial drop, once you drop off the chain hill, you immediately go down and bank to the left. Now, every time I ride this, I absolutely hate it because it's rough, but I love it because it's very uncommon. I don't see that sharp turn with G-forces on those wooden coasters at the bottom of the hill like that, so it makes it interesting. So that's what this second drop here reminds me of, and so I kept it. Now I wanted to keep this compact-ish for a wooden coaster, but tight in on itself, more like a Cyclone style. but not wicked crazy. So we'll keep with the nice ups and downs, some good air time. Keep our turns shallow but not short. Keep our track next to each other, and we'll go from there. And yes, I know that this high bank turn would not necessarily be found on a cyclone style coaster. It's going to be more on your RMCs, but I liked it. It was a good way to shed speed and get the coaster to turn back around without going too far back to the lift hill. Now after that high bank turnaround turn, we come back here. We'll throw in a double up and a drop in the middle of this turnaround. Now I didn't want the coaster to go too much farther past this, so I wanted the turnaround to stay at this length, and getting it to fit in there the way I wanted it to was a little bit of a challenge, but we'll make do. I think that is what ends up making some of my better coasters, is when things don't work out the way I want them to, and you have to make do and figure it out. Sometimes your most exciting elements come from those, which definitely happen, because as you'll see once we go through for a ride through on this guy, the way that double up into that drop down turnaround, I think it turned out pretty amazing. Definitely keeps you on your toes because you don't know what's coming up next. Now we move over here. I wanted to get the brakes run and the final run set up so I knew where I was going. And obviously I wanted I have that path going between our station and our lift hill, so we have to get back underneath or over. And I didn't want to really block any views more than I had to, so we went back under the ground. Now this underground section doesn't turn out to be like super exciting because there's not a lot of ups and downs, not a lot of airtime or anything. It stays fairly flat, but the cool thing about it is you're carrying quite a bit of speed as you come through here, so it's over fairly quick. So the few turns that are there keep the entertainment value up and entertaining. And then when you pop out of the ground, next thing you know, boom, you're back into the station. Now as I'm working on putting this path in, I wanted to talk some of my plans and ideas for this park. I don't want this park to get particularly large. I wanted to be able to, for me, keep my focus. I know once my parks get super big, it's hard to fill everything in and make it all look good. So I'm going to keep it fairly small. And you'll see in the next upcoming episodes how I do some terrain layout and editing. Now I'm kind of picturing this park to be more of a family-owned theme park rather than a franchise or a chain. So this park wouldn't be, and wouldn't have the money to make massive coasters. In my mind, this wooden coaster was the first one that went in. and it's been here since the park started. The invert that we built in the first episode was probably their latest expansion, which is why it's right on the edge of the park and takes up the edge of the side of the parking lot, which initially that parking lot in my head went all the way down the edge of the border of the park. But once I built it, it took that space out, so I left it as is. Now we're gonna go ahead and try to figure out how I want to do the queue line for this ride. I wanted it to have a lot of queues because I expect it to be full once the park gets bigger and we have thousands of guests. One neat thing is, in other parks that I've built, I was playing around with how many guests I can have in my park before it starts to lag, and I was able to get up to 10,000 before I noticed any major gameplay lag, and at about 12,500 is when I had to start kicking people out because it just became unplayable. I like to build my roller coasters so that they have a high capacity of riders, which means that I probably do longer brake runs or extra brake runs that I need to. But on a wooden coaster, I definitely want to have at least 2 trains running. On our inverted coaster over there, I have 3 trains running, which is what is able to give us a high capacity ride, keeps our line short, and lets a lot of riders ride without having to wait more than, I think, 11 minutes or whatever in line. Now I thought it would be cool to have this path go right over the track where it drops down, and then to have another hole on the other side. So on both sides of your pathway, you're looking down over the coaster as it drops into the tunnel and goes around to the chain lift. Now you see I'm going back through our pathway, putting in the hand railings, and that's just for me to see where the path is once I put in this concrete. Because once you cover it up, I like to cover the curbs up also, so once you do that, it's hard to see when you go in and put in your own hand railings. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave those in here for now. Alright guys, and with that, that's going to about do it for this episode. We're going to finish doing some work on our queue path here, but stay tuned. Let me know if you're liking the series so far. One thing I love about this game is every time I play it, it never goes the way I expect it to, but it turns out for the better. So stay tuned, see what's coming up. I know that what I do have finished, I am absolutely proud of. I think it looks badass. So I can't wait to see what you guys think. And stay tuned. Drop a comment below for anything you liked. Give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe so you stay tuned and catch the next episodes coming up. See you next time. Bye.